Oh, speaking of thieves, it's a raccoon. It's a little art thief over there. Do museums need to heighten their security? Recently, a child scratched a Rothko painting, and it brings into question, how do we stop these things from happening? I just finished reading Art Thief, the Michael Finkel book about Stefan Breitwieser. It was amazing, highly recommend, and it's a true crime story that happened in our era. He was arrested in 2001 for stealing $2 billion of art from museums in broad daylight. So let's talk about it. How can museums solve this problem? Stefan Breitwieser and his girlfriend had this love of art, and that is the thing that drove them to steal. They never sold a single bit of their $2 billion collection. They just kept it in their upstairs attic. And I'm not going to give any spoilers for this book. Don't worry. If you want to read it, you can read it without knowing the very fascinating ending. By the way, my name's Stephanie. I am an artist and former art teacher, and yes, a reader too. So I hope you subscribe and follow along on this new YouTube journey. Very excited to be talking art and making art and building an art community here. So in The Art Thief, Finkel describes the incredible saga of this couple that stole art for many years under the nose of security guards and the public. They didn't use any weapons. They were in broad daylight. And everything ended in 2001. I won't tell you how, but it's very captivating, just like a lot of true crime stories. There's the whole courtroom drama. I always find myself surprised when courtroom dramas grip me in like a book or a podcast or a movie, because I don't think I'm that kind of person, but the suspense and the story is just so good. So normally art thieves are obviously stealing so they can make money. Almost every art thief has orchestrated some elaborate operation getting past museum security and stealing a painting. Tons of famous paintings have been stolen. There's the Rembrandt. I think it's like a biblical scene on a boat. There's Munch. The Scream painting was stolen at one point. The Mona Lisa was stolen at one point. They talk about that in the book. Oh, the full title, The Art Thief, a true story of love, crime, and a dangerous obsession. And the book came out in 2023. Usually people are stealing for profit. This guy had such an interesting psychological profile because he, of course, had to be evaluated when he was being tried. And I want to say it was in Switzerland. He lived in Europe. Oh. Okay. Oh, speaking of thieves, it's a raccoon. It's a little art thief over there. So he was tried. I'm not going to tell you any result, but it's very interesting. And one of the big questions about how to accuse him of this crime, of course, had to do with motivation, because he wasn't trying to sell or profit from the paintings. The work he treasured, he wasn't trying to damage anything. He kept everything in good condition in his apartment. He actually lived in the attic of his mom's house, so a little bit of an enabling story there, maybe. And he just enjoyed the art. Before I answer the question about museum security, let's talk a little bit about enjoying art and going to art museums, because this book, and even the recent events of the child scratching the Rothko painting, they really bring to mind the question of how does the general public make use of a museum? Because a lot of people think they're lofty, hoity-toity, not for me. I can't really get art. There's so much about it that I don't know. And I want to encourage you to think of art museums as for you, just like parks. Just like our national parks, just like libraries, an art museum it belongs to the public. So if you want to enjoy art museums more, if you want to get some good out of the work there and not have to steal it and own it for yourself or buy it, be wealthy and buy it so you can be a private owner, you can just gravitate towards what you love. I know that sounds really simple, but I remember when I was in art school, my teachers told me, when you're making a painting, because my degree's in painting, it should have stuff you love in it. Of course, should. They say should is an unrealistic expectation, but that teacher was really encouraging us to enjoy the art making process and make work about things that we love. So if you walk into a museum, you can walk past things that don't speak to you or appeal to you. You can find things that you love. You just have to walk around, find something pretty, maybe find some humor in it. Even the Renaissance or Gothic work that centers around the Catholic Church and biblical narratives, you don't have to know all of those stories. You can laugh at a really funny looking man baby because they painted the Christ child really funny looking sometimes. So sorry if that seems sacrilege. You know, of course, there's those that are all about beauty. I guess what I'm saying is lighten up. As someone who could tell you like the history of a lot of the works that I see in any art museum, I'm also telling you that's not important. Stefan Breitwieser, he had this deep passion for art, antiquities, art museums. And when he went, he just had this overwhelming urge that he had to be the person that had that piece in his possession and appreciated it to the utmost. Obviously, that's controversial to think that you need to own it to appreciate it. You don't. Art and art museums are a public good. So I hope next time you have the chance to go to an art museum, you take it and you consider that art museums are for you, just like public parks. So, hey, if you want to be influenced to go to a park as well, go for it. This is Boyd Hill here in St. Pete, Florida, and I'm very grateful that this belongs to the public. So the other thing that I wanted to share before I get to the museum security question around this theme of owning art versus stealing or seeing it publicly has to do with the story of the lost Leonardo. This was a film about Salvator Mundi. It's a painting attributed to Leonardo da Vinci. It sold for $450 million by Christie's. I think someone in the Middle East owns it now, a prince. And this film, another thing that I would highly recommend in addition to The Art Thief, The Lost Leonardo is a great film, and it brings into question the authenticity of everything in a museum. So that's the other kind of strange thing when you go to a museum. It's like you want to enjoy everything because it's the real deal. Like, this is the drawing that Da Vinci's hand touched. I remember seeing a Da Vinci drawing, which I do think was real. Maybe not necessarily attributed to him, but actually by him in Italy. And it was so amazing how fresh it was. It seemed like it was just drawn like a second ago, like his hand had just put the mark on the page. So the Lost Leonardo is an unsolved mystery because there was an art dealer in America who found it at an auction, thought this beautiful painting looked like a Da Vinci, brought it to an art restoration expert, and she fixed it up. She painted over it, and really, she kind of remade the entire painting. Honestly, when you look at it before her restorations, it's a different painting. Like, she had a very heavy hand in it, but she was a Da Vinci expert. So there are only a few Da Vinci paintings in the world. He was a scientist. He was a genius that worked in many different fields. So painting was just one of many of his pursuits in his lifetime. And some of his paintings are even unfinished. There's this huge biblical scene, I think, with John the Baptist and Jesus' babies and their mothers. I remember seeing that when I was younger and being so fascinated that like half of it was painted and half of it wasn't. So the route that the art thief took, he felt like these works were for him and not for everyone. How do museums fix the theft problem? Theft isn't a huge problem with art museums, but any piece that's stolen is very valuable. It's for the public, it's stolen from the public, and museum security is surprisingly sparse. Should they increase their security? I think it's more of an issue of public understanding. As someone who taught for many years, of course, everything goes back to education. Knowing the collective good that art museums do, they're actually almost like libraries. My friends that work in libraries and art museums are such public servants. They provide so many more programs and events than you would think, and they preserve cultural heritage too. So museum security is minimal. I don't think museums are going to be increasing their security budget, even with accidents like the child scratching the Mark Rothko painting. It is still an issue of public understanding, like how close can we get to the works? How much should we respect the works? And of course, with a child damaging it, that can be very accidental. But museums sometimes will put out fakes and preserve the real thing. When they keep the real thing in their vaults, that's one way that they're preserving the actual cultural heritage. This is making me think of Silo. If you've seen that series, so good. There's a way that they preserve all of their important objects for the future of humanity. So museum cameras, important. Cases, important. That can limit access to the work. But there's so many more advanced modes of security that museums probably aren't going to invest in. It's tough to believe in an honor system because we get burned. Someone's always gonna do wrong. So what do you do with that one person who is ruining it for everyone? I personally think that much more often than we realize, there is the opportunity for restorative justice or restoring relationships. If the child damaging the Rothko or Brightweiser, the art thief, or even if the Middle Eastern prince had a different understanding of the collective good, a rising tide lifts all boats, sharing, which is a big part of art museums, then maybe some of these issues could be minimized. There's always going to be the outliers, but I hope that the general public, maybe you, do get a chance to appreciate how valuable our art museums are. So tell me in the comments your experience with art museums or art collecting. It is a valid practice. A lot of collectors aren't just trying to make money and buy artwork for investments. They really have a passion for it. Tell me in the comments if you have seen any pieces that you just had to own and you did splurge on art just for pure enjoyment. If you have 3 of something, it's a collection. So if you have 3 artworks, I guess you could consider yourself an art collector. You've probably noticed that this channel is kind of new right now. I love making videos. I've been doing it my whole life. And of course, I love making art. I'm only just now putting them together really into YouTube and keeping consistent with it. So I really hope you subscribe and follow along on this journey of talking art, building an artist community, and giving artists, and yes, that means you, everyone can be an artist, giving artists a little bit of inspiration in their day. Thanks, and I'll see you next time. I just ran into a coyote on the path. Just like every other big creature I've run into, it wanted nothing to do with me and it just ran away.